Hi there.
Dear medical professionals.
Dear medical professionals.
Dear medical professionals.
Dear medical professionals.
I have Turner syndrome.
My name is Lynette.
I'm Rachel Knott, and I'm 24 years old, and I have Turner syndrome.
My name's Lindsay.
My name is Brooke.
This is my story.
And I have Turner syndrome.
And I have Turner syndrome. And this is my story.
And I have Turner syndrome.
And this is my story.
I was diagnosed with Turner syndrome at about age 13. I have the mosaic form of Turner syndrome. As far as symptoms or health complications, I'm very lucky. I have very little health complications. I have, my heart is fine, my kidneys are fine. As a child, I had several ear infections, and I had tubes in my ears at 5 years old, and I had my tonsils and adenoids removed. Of course, I am shorter. I am 5 feet tall, having been on growth hormone. I was put on growth hormone at age 14, and I was on growth hormone until I was age 17. I am on hormone replacement therapy currently. So, being short is kind of hard because I'm the shortest one in my family. My mom is 5'7", my dad is 5'9", and I have a younger sister who is 5'11", so she's quite a bit taller than I am, so it makes it kind of difficult. But as far as infertility, I'm still hoping to be a mom. I'm working on that in that area. But otherwise, I'm very lucky. I'm very healthy. I'm currently a teacher, and very little symptoms or effects of Turner syndrome.
I wanted to share my story. I was diagnosed when I was 12. When I was little, my grandparents took me to the Mayo Clinic, and they thought I could possibly have Turner syndrome, but they never really did anything about it because I was so little, and I didn't really have any symptoms. I was born with aortic stenosis, which is the heart problem, and a heart murmur, which kind of goes with it, but I was being followed by a cardiologist, so they didn't really think much of it. And when I was 12, my grandparents took me to a endocrinologist who drew my blood because I wasn't growing. I was only 4'7", and they did a karyotype and found out that I had mosaic Turners, which mosaic Turners is not true Turners. It's not when your chromosome is completely missing. It's when part of your chromosomes are normal, you have both X's, and then part of your chromosomes are still missing that piece. So 75% of my chromosomes are missing that piece, and maybe 25% are normal. So I was diagnosed with mosaic Turners, and I was started on growth hormone when I was 12. So I am now 5'4", and I remember having to go get x-rays of my hands every couple weeks, every month or so, just to make sure I was growing and if my bones were fusing together. And then I also had a lot of ear infections and had to have ear surgery, and now I have hearing loss and have to wear hearing aids. But one of the things I want to talk about that not a lot of people, get really into, and I think they kind of keep it in, is the infertility part. Because I think mainly the medical community focuses so much on the symptoms, they don't focus on the, the mental part of fertility and infertility, not being able to have a baby. Us Turners women, the older we get, the more it sinks in that we cannot, have our own children. So the older I got, I was faced with this issue. What am I gonna do not having my own kids? So when I got married and my husband and I, decided to start a family, the option that we chose was adoption through foster care. So we've been fostering for 5 years, and we have adopted 2 beautiful kids, and to this day we are still fostering. I'm very, very lucky. I have a wonderful husband. I have a wonderful supportive family, and they support us in all that we do through this whole foster journey. But I think that is not a missed part, but I think that that's something that they don't really focus on a lot, because the medical community is so focused on, you know, our ears or our heart or our, you know, skin, our webbed neck, you know, cosmetic stuff, you know, stuff that they can fix. But what about the internal part? What about those feelings about not being able to have kids? Because that is a big part of it. So I just want the medical community to know that we are more than just symptoms. We have feelings, and it can be a hard thing to face. But I am so proud to be one of the beautiful butterflies. I hope that all the Turner's women, no matter how they're affected, you know, my husband always says, you know, it's a miracle that you're here. You know, we weren't supposed to be born. Most Turner's babies don't make it. So I just want you guys to know, if you have Turner's, you're a miracle. And you are, you know, you're supposed to be here, and there's a reason. So I am happy to be one of the butterflies.
I was diagnosed at the age of 6 months old with mosaic Turner syndrome. Some of the complications that I have experienced are learning difficulties, particularly in math, and learning disabilities, and a heart murmur, and just recently some hearing loss due to ear infections.
I am a classic case of TS, and my parents were notified shortly upon my birth that I was affected by TS, and right then and there an endocrine team was established, and you know, was there to guide me from pediatrics through up till now, adulthood. So some of the health complications I have experienced because of Turner syndrome include benign intracranial hypertension due to fluid building up on my brain from growth hormone treatments, and that was around age 17. I've also been affected by high blood pressure, anxiety, some social issues. Stepping out into the real world in my first career really spiked those. So I found some great outlets to help with that. Lymphedema, and some very severe swelling in my left leg due to Turner syndrome. So I've had to see a massage therapist before, and you know, really zone in on that. But heart, kidneys, everything looks great on that end of the spectrum for me. So I'm a very fortunate case, so to speak, with that area, and I have my God to thank for that. So a little bit of my backstory. I've been very fortunate to know since day one that I was affected by Turner syndrome, but I've never let it define me. I have always been one that loves to sing, loves to talk to people. I've been active in high school as a cheerleader, in theater programs, my church choir, and I currently serve as a preschool teacher here locally near my hometown. I'm actually from Boaz, Alabama, so a very small town in the northern part of Alabama. So I just have never let TS define me. I have embraced it, and the older I get, the more research I have conducted myself to benefit my longevity and to take the best care of me. I currently, you know, find exercise programs and diet programs that really fit me and correlate with that, and I have transitioned into a happy adulthood. So I'm very thankful to have, like I said, a great God, great family, and great resources out there. So very blessed. And any questions about TS, I love raising awareness and researching for this great cause. And I have a tattoo of the TS emblem for the TS Society of the U.S. to remind me daily to embrace who I am.
My story is kind of one that doesn't go along with the statistics. I was diagnosed prenatal. My mom was like 20 weeks pregnant, and they did the anatomy scan and found some abnormalities with fluid in my chest cavity and in the back of my neck. And they didn't know at first what it was. They thought it was spina bifida, and it was my brain seeping out of the back of my head, and that was not the case. They did an amniocentesis and diagnosed me with Turner syndrome, saying it was most likely classic. And they told my parents to terminate. They said I wasn't going to make it. They said even if I would, I'd be a vegetable, have no quality of life, and they didn't even expect me to really make it far past birth. They didn't expect me to be able to breathe on my own. I was given a less than 1% chance of even surviving. Now, I'm 27, married, in the process of doing foster care and adoption, and I'm pretty healthy. I don't have the thyroid issues that can pop up. I don't have the heart problem that can pop up. I am on hormone replacement therapy that I started when I was about 12, and I've been on it ever since. It's what gives me a cycle. Without it, I don't get a cycle on my own. 2015 or 16, I went to a reproductive endocrinologist to try to see what my body was doing as far as fertility and being able to get pregnant. And I was diagnosed with premature ovarian failure with a low egg reserve and very high FSH levels. So we started looking at alternatives, and we are very, very excited to have the opportunity to do foster care and adoption. I am extremely blessed with my story and how incredibly it goes against what could have happened. I was born in 1991 with no health concerns whatsoever. I grew at a normal rate. I never had to take growth hormones, and I have just been very lucky and blessed when it comes to my health. I hope sharing my story helps you, and I hope it can contribute to the general understanding of what Turner syndrome can actually look like.
And lastly, I would like to say thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and this is our story. Thank you.
So thank you so much for listening.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.